recording? Okay, I hope that's everyone. Okay, everybody. How's everybody doing? I mean, it's snowing in parts of the UK today. Same.
It looks like Newton, isn't it?
Yeah, Totem, where are you? It looks like a construction site.
I'm in some creative space in Gulu.
All right.
Okay.
It's called the Innovation Village.
So what is this? So the thing behind you, is it just something in construction, or is this kind of that is the space?
Yeah, this is the space. Basically, the space was made with wood, like poles, wooden poles. So like the background here, it's made of wooden poles, and then on top it's iron sheets.
Nice one, nice one. Looks good. I like it. It's got that kind of raw construction vibes. I love it. Michael, could you make me a co-host? Haven't yet. All right. How is everyone else? We've got Janan joining as well. Unexpectedly welcome, Janan. if that's you, because you may be a case of mistaken identity. We don't know.
I should just say as well, if people can put their cameras on, it's always really good to see you. We know sometimes bandwidth is an issue, but it's lovely to see you if we can. Thank you, people. Hello, 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 hello.
Hi, Mikey. Hi, Margot.
Hi, Janan. How's it going?
Apologies, I can't have video. I'm in transit.
We've got a new person joining in the studio. There may be one more person. Who knows? Yes, welcome. I think your name is Margarita, but you know, in Talkaoke, just can never be absolutely anyone joining.
Well, let's just say who we've got in the studio. Actually, so we have got. You can get a sound check at the same time. So tell us your name. Okay, I need to turn it up a bit more. Go on, say again. Whoops, a bit too much.
I am M like Martha and like North Pole A.
Okay. For a minute there, it's like I felt like it's like you didn't know how to spell your own name, but I could have helped you. Timna, welcome. What have we got over here?
Margarita.
Okay. And what have we got on this side? It's also good for a sound check. We've got
Elam.
And
it's Margot.
And I'm Mikey. Okay, right. So
and we also had some more people joining online. We're just waiting for them to connect to the sound. We've got Evelina, we've got Isaac. I think Lucy. Yes, yeah. Lucy. Lucy with her blurred background. She could be anywhere.
You want me to unblur it? Would it make it more authentic? It's my like professional working mode. My bed is made background. No, I'll put it on.
No, it's fine. It's just the reason why I was drawn to blur is because it reflects my mind today.
Yeah, I feel a bit blurry today. We've had a lot of gigs over the last weeks. We've been doing gigs every day. But anyway, let's just get on with this. We've only got 90 minutes officially.
Okay.
So let's just get on with the chat. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you. We really enjoyed listening to the clips, I should say that. Fantastic audio clips.
Yeah, it was really good. And I just got a quick question, because I think more or less we've got all the vast majority of the clips. But before, I think we're going to go for kind of similar format. We're going to play a little bit, give you a bit of feedback, and just have a conversation about it. Totem, I think we're getting a little bit of background noise from you. So if you don't mind muting, or I can... It could be you, it could be someone else. I don't know.
Well, look, so there we go. I think we've killed the background noise.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, I've killed Totem as well. Whoops.
No. He's... Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Totem, can you still hear us?
Yeah. Totem. Uh-oh.
No, I think he's still there.
He's there somewhere. Yeah.
But anyway, hopefully Totem is still there. If he's not, hopefully he will come back. But I just wanted to say, yeah, again, just thanks for sending all the clips. I think it was like quite a lot of pressure to kind of organize it through people and that kind of stuff. Margarita, you joining? So just make sure they don't join with your audio. I'm just letting you in. But I think the format for today is just we're gonna play the clips, have a quick chit chat about it, then maybe talk about kind of interviews as a technique. But first of all, and then before you know, it's gonna be the end, as it always is, just too soon. But I just wanted to just kind of ask everyone, how did you find this exercise in any kind of aspect? How was it for you? What was difficult? What was easy? What was unexpected? Lucy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. Yeah, I think the connection was a lot more of an issue. We kind of had to terminate. I don't know if it was my end or we couldn't really work it out, but we had to terminate one and had to change the person I was interviewing to another day. Yeah, it was just a lot more. And then I was going back through the edits, and one lesson learned was that because we ended up having to turn our cameras off to improve the connection, and actually trying to communicate with someone and feed off someone when you're doing remote interviews is really difficult. You can't kind of give visual cues as to like, oh, talk about that, or I don't quite understand that you would normally do with your face. So that was kind of a lesson learned. And then another lesson learned was maybe requesting like vibrations and messages to be turned off. I think I always forget that, and I'm always in a meeting and I have like messages coming in, but I think those are the small things that I'm picking up from the things that I don't do when like formally recording to send something in.
Thanks, Lucy. I think the technical is a big one. Never underestimate the importance of technical, and the background noise, our favorite thing, as always. But yeah, I mean, what about anyone else? How did you find talking to not even your pair, just like another person from another country? How was that for people? And Laura, welcome to being upside down. Love it.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that I'm not really upside down.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
that's quite clear.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
That's fine. We just hope that you're well, that you don't get a rush of blood to your head suddenly. Okay. Any more feedback? Come on, Louise. And then Isaac.
Awesome. It was so cool. It was so cool to talk to someone in Uganda. Someone, not just someone, but the girl I interviewed was just so cool. And I had a really quite a challenging question in my heart that I wanted to ask, but I didn't quite have the nerve to come straight out with it at the beginning because I didn't know her. But somehow we got onto exactly the subject that I wanted to talk about anyway, just through getting to know each other and asking a very open question. And that's, we got right into the heart of it, and it was such a great experience.
Oh yeah, and I mean, yeah, I mean, so what kind of prevented you from asking that question, or like what was the kind of rationale behind it? Was it just
I wanted to talk about the differences in sexual identity and discussing gender identity between here and Uganda. And I've not met the girl. I didn't know her. So just to go straight in with that question seemed a bit too much of a step, but somehow we got there really quickly anyway.
Well, I mean, I thought your opening, I don't know if it was your opening questions because we only heard an excerpt, but you started off saying, what are the negative things in your world? And for a minute, I was like, whoa, that's a bit of a kind of... It
was an unexpected turn.
Yeah, because normally we like to start with the positive, but actually, you know, one of the things on Talkaoke that's really interesting is that when you get people around the table, they actually start off with the complaints and the negative things, and that's actually a really good way to bond people. So I think it worked very well.
So we got through the tricky stuff at the, and then we got to end with what's fabulous in her life, and that was a really nice place to stop. So it was a journey. It was great. It was challenging. It was really inspiring. So thank you.
Definitely was a journey. Isaac, you had your hand up earlier. What was your experience like? It is a Zoom classic. Obviously, you're on mute, but I know you're just messing with us, and you know this. You knew it all along. Somebody has to be first in every meeting.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. So it was, for me, it was a very, very good experience, because it was my first time to do such an interview, where I had to, I had to go through someone to be able to interview another person.
And so, yeah, we can hear you.
So my first participant, the person I was paired with, we couldn't really get time where we're both free to do it, and then, but hopefully I was able to do an interview eventually. It wasn't on time, but yeah, it was a very, very beautiful experience. I kind of felt like I didn't also ask all the questions that I wanted to, and also I didn't really know where to start, how to like properly follow the conversation and ask what would be relevant, depending on what the person was saying, the person I was interviewing was saying, Laura. Yeah.
I thought, just a quick feedback from me. I thought your interview was really, really substantial. It was quite long, so we listened to like some bits of it. But actually, what was really interesting about it, and now you saying about maybe not knowing exactly what questions to ask and how it's going to go into the first time, actually added that kind of freshness to it. It was really, you asked almost like the best simple questions there are, because even in questions which are, okay, Poland, where even is that? I mean, to me, it was like brilliant, because I know where that is, but how I describe it, how the interviewer, how Laura described it, it was an interesting thing and an insight into how who she is. So that was really interesting. Quite like that. Laura, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Isaac is saying about how, like, obviously our chat was pretty long, and I enjoyed it a lot as well. But the part when you have this time to connect with the other person before the interview actually starts, so I think that's maybe an important aspect too, that even though we have to interview something that we don't know, we spend this a little bit of time at the beginning to kind of connect and just also make the other person feel more relaxed and comfortable. So I actually forgot that we were recording, and I felt much more at ease. So it's also an interesting experience for me to be on the other side.
I mean, one of the things that we do is try to, and I mentioned this in the last session, is try not, get that sense of trust. I mean, hopefully we are going to be trustworthy people and responsible, and actually deal with what we're getting in a responsible way. But it's about that other person feeling that sense of trust with you. And that if you go on longer, for sure, you build up that sense of trust. Sometimes we don't always have that time. So sometimes it's about how do we actually speed up that sense of trust and speed up that that sense that we're actually a good listener, an able partner, and we're going to be responsible with whatever comes up.
Yeah, for sure. Evelina, you've got your hand up.
Yes, hello. Just wanted to add that on we had a very different connection that has been made. You guys are talking about a very intimate situation, and me and Colin, we interviewed, Colin interviewed my friend Laura, different Laura, who's a PR in music, and he's a musician, and they've sort of started a whole new connection there, where they exchanged emails, and they have that relationship where he can ask her, professional questions, and I guess it's like a beginning of a collaboration, maybe, I don't know, or at least a friendship on a very different level as well. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I mean, when that happens, I guess that's like really, really special. And I think, yeah, maybe we look out for a new track coming out as a collaboration between your other friend Laura and Colin.
Not even that, but you know, you never know the unexpectedness of the whole sort of setup and like who are you going to meet and where is this going to lead you? Whereas we would never meet otherwise, no, because we're so far away. So
I mean, I think that's what we're trying to do here is trying to, you know, bridge the gap and make it not seem so far away.
Speaking of which,
and Colin is coming in now, so we'll welcome Colin.
But it, you know, in a kind of opposite way, what you just said reminded me of the interview that happened between who was interviewing Eva, my friend Eva. I can't remember now. Anyway, but there was an interview between a musician and a visual artist. Actually, that was Colin actually as well. He interviewed my friend Eva, who's a visual artist. There was like a musician to a visual artist, and they were talking about music. And that I thought was again just an unexpected direction for the conversation, which just maybe, which just kind of showed some really interesting insights to the subject of music. Visual artists. Hey, Colin.
Hey, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome. All right,
Thanks,
so we're just doing kind of like general feedback. Anyone else, anything that you found surprising, anything you would have done differently? You listened back and you thought, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Or did you listen back and thought, oh my God, I'm amazing? Margarita?
Actually, I was feeling privileged, absolutely, to have the chance to speak one who I would never met elsewhere. That was fantastic. And even though my original list of questions, I didn't use it.
Yeah.
Because through introducing Andrew, who is Eugene friend, through introducing our project and through introducing myself, I discovered what he's interested in most of all. And that was the thing which I'm interested in too. So that was the interview about his approach to things he's doing.
Okay, so you found the commonality. I mean, you know, for us at the People Speak, which is probably where we vary from like a conventional media outlet, as we don't really like a list of questions pre-prepared, because we want you to do exactly that, is to listen to the other person and find out more about them from their perspective, which involves, I mean, it's fine in a way to have a list of questions as long as you're prepared to throw it out the window when things go in a different way and when you're actually responding to what that person is saying.
And I think few people did it in the interview.
Yeah,
so
Sorry, and that was exactly what happened, what you said.
You smashed it then. That is exactly
Absolutely. I didn't use this question.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a very funny thing with your clip where we heard the answers, but we didn't ask you. We didn't hear your questions.
You edited out the questions.
Because I think 3 minutes. 3 minutes is so short, and he was so interesting.
Yes, but, I get it. Yeah.
That's so funny. But okay, any more feedback? Any more things to say? I think somebody gave us a thumbs up at some point. Oh, Timna, you've got your hand up in the studio.
Mm-hmm. I actually had kind of the similar situation. I also came with, I think, 2 or 3 questions which I wanted to ask my interviewee. I didn't know her, and I also felt super privileged to speak to her. And the interesting thing was that before preparing my questions, I think the 3 it was about identity, culture, and something like this. And before that, I thought like, oh, actually, I would be interested in how does the LGBTIQ community in Uganda work. And then I actually heard that there's kind of a censorship, and I thought like, okay, I don't know her at all, so it might be easier to speak about identity and culture in general. And so I had the chance to speak to feminist podcaster, and she came up with the topic, so I really loved it, which was super great. And I also had to throw out all my preparation out of the window, which was amazing.
There's nothing wrong with doing the preparation as long as you're willing to go with the flow. Lucy, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, I was also boiling the kettle. I was right next to the kettle as well. Yeah, no, I was going to say just in the note of like asking people questions and kind of emergent topics that come up and listening back. I just often find that I will listen back and I can't get a question out coherently. I think it maybe might be nerves of when I'm asking or saying something.
Yeah.
I will start to phrase it in 5 ways and then hope that they understand what I just said. And then the other thing is that I often listen back and realize that I have only paid attention to maybe half of what they've said. I don't know if anyone else has found this. I found this when I'm listening back to recordings of meetings that I've had and going back through, and the same thing is that like you miss little nuggets and I don't know what your brain is doing and how to, I obviously picked the interesting thing that I found as I was listening to them. You can't assimilate everything, but like, does anyone else find that they heard other stuff that they possibly would have wanted to talk about, but actually didn't think in the moment at all and didn't even properly process that happened? I don't know.
I think you're getting an agreement from Timna. Do you want to say a little bit more about that, Timna?
Yes, so that's only my interpretation for myself, but I think I'm sometimes like so focused on wanting to do things good that I actually forget to just relax and listen to the person, which is just on the screen just in front of me. But I totally can relate. When I listened to my recording, I felt like, oh shit, like there are so many questions which I wanted to ask and which were even more interesting, but I didn't ask her. But which is also good, coming back just to what I think it's Evelina said. I have her contact details, and it's also, I have the impression, kind of a new relationship which we started. So thanks to Sophie.
I mean, I would say, Lucy, that's a good thing really to have the, to be listening back and actually thinking what you could have said, because everybody should be really doing that. And that's also about practice, because you can't pick up on every single point. And, when somebody says something in a comment we're going to hear, there's the 4 or 5 different ways you could, there's more than that. There's hundreds of different ways you could respond to that question, which are all about, one of the things I think we're going to talk about in a bit is this idea of zooming in, really understanding that other person's perspective, their feelings, and getting a real sense of where they're coming from. That takes a bit of practice, and it's going to be something that you are going to want to reflect on and think about different ways you could have asked a question. And that's great for the next time or the time after that or whenever. So that's part of the learning, I think. When I first started doing Talkaoke, whenever I did a Talkaoke show, for the first, probably 5 years, 7 years, I couldn't sleep because my head was so full of all the questions that I should have asked. Now I sleep soundly, so I don't know if I don't care as much or if I'm doing better at that. I don't know.
We've got Dorothy. Yeah, go on.
Last thing.
If you want to say something, just like pop your hand up, like a human fleshy hand. It's fine. But Dorothy, you had a similar experience to Lucy.
I was just going to quickly say on top of that, I think
that's Lucy speaking. Okay, right.
Sorry, I was just going to quickly say that I feel like I've done a few personal reflection comments, but and I haven't said anything. But like, thank you so much, Hassan, for putting me in touch with Adita. It was just again, it was so lovely. It's so kind of that moment where you like say goodbye and you're like, I'm never going to see you again. Like it's just like you made a connection and you really enjoyed it, and it's just. Yeah, thanks. And that was great. And it was lovely to meet them, etc. Okay, done.
Thanks, Lucy. Dorothy, over to you. And thumbs up from Henry as well.
I just wanted to say that everything went well. Basically, I never thought that he knew what I was going to talk about. When I brought the theme, he loved it. And he elaborated more about it that I didn't expect to. It's different here in Uganda. When you pose a question, it's difficult for someone to answer the way you want them to answer, or the answers are different, but he really elaborated more and I learned a lot from him also. And it was really a pleasure for me to meet him, and also thank you so much for that interview.
No problem. I mean, was there anything that you heard from your interviewee that surprised you, something that kind of you're like, oh, or did you feel at any point like, oh, I'm not sure what to ask next? Or like, no, yes, I know what I'm going to ask next. This is
Of
perfect.
course, I really, there is a state whereby I couldn't even ask another question. I was even confused. What should I ask? Okay, let me think about it. Okay, let me just ask this. And he kept on like trying to help me ask a lot of questions with the way he spoke. And also he elaborated more of what I wanted. And it felt like as if I had nothing completely to ask. And it was really a good experience that I kept on trying to pose questions that are different, but it could also take us back to where we started. So it was really amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dorothy. So we've got Henry, we've got Hassan. Let's go to Henry first, then Hassan. Keep it to the point, because I can't wait to play some of the clips.
Yeah, we need to play some clips, don't we? We're just talking about the clips. We need to play some stuff. Anyway, yeah.
Go, Henry. Hello.
Right. Thank you. And I think Dorothy's parting shot was exactly one of my observations. I remember in the conversation that I had, it was so common to sort of move forward, and then the person I was speaking to shared something that actually took us backwards. I remember one particular time, I think the person I was speaking to spoke about his experience in Africa when he was young, and I found that fascinating, and it really actually turned the conversation around to us talking about racism. And then one other thing that I actually found very interesting in this conversation was that he also asked me questions. I mean, he asked me about my perspective on racism. So initially I was slightly taken aback because I didn't see it coming. At first I thought it was going to be more of questions from my end. And then once he submitted, he said, how about you? What's your take on racism? So we had a very exciting conversation. And also, I think finally, the thing that also stood out for me was that when he spoke about the Black citizens in the UK who are Black, especially those who have come from West Africa and the Caribbeans, and the kind of rivalry they have, it's something that I had seen in a movie. And I think for me, it was a huge revelation that actually there is a lot of information that we can glean from literature, from movies and things like that, which can actually be substantiated when we speak to people who come from a particular place.
That's amazing. And I think, yeah, I mean, that kind of thing of being asked a question, actually, when you do an interview, that can totally happen. When you host a Talkaoke in the middle, you don't have an opinion. You would then look to turn your opinion into a question, and you would, you probably try to get other people around the table to answer the question for you. But when you're sitting on the outside, like I am now, I'll be able to voice my opinion. Mikey, not so much. As a host, if it was a proper gig, but that's great. And literature and the kind of world outside of our own kind of reference bubbles, totally can tell us loads or provoke questions at least. Definitely. Thank you so much for this, Henry. Hassan, shall we jump straight to you?
Thank you so much. Right now I'm outside, sorry. Let me just put my point because I've been listening. I have my plan today, so I'm trying to get everything as it lasts. But from the conversation with Ben, first of all, I was also having trouble because every time I try to interview people, I end up having a conversation instead of an interview. So listening to everyone right now, and their experience, I have got a lot to learn actually, that sometimes you have to take over. But with me and Ben, we just had like the conversation, and I found out that he works for the government about like how to propose ideas to the people. So we had a conversation about creativity and how the government maybe somehow should propose invest more in practices that make people more creative, because when a person is creative, they are happy and they somehow function more in other fields. And yeah, the conversation was great. I'm sending through my stuff. I didn't send. I'm really sorry, but
I was just gonna say, it's like I lost your clip, but luckily.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, like my phone has a problem, so I can't edit the video. I would actually send a very long thing. So, but I'm going to make sure I send it as soon as I reach home. I'm traveling today. Yeah, but I have got also a lot to learn from this session today, like on how to interview people and not to actually have a conversation, like and let the other person take over the interview. Thank you so much.
No problem. I mean, yeah. Thank you for going through it, because that's almost like, you know, I think in our experience of working in a kind of co-creative way and participatory way with people who are not us, I mean, sounds so obvious, but people with different viewpoints, I mean, sometimes you really do kind of have to put yourself on the line, and, you know, you may come from completely different backgrounds, and yet you're having this conversation, and just kind of how to navigate that conversation in a respectful and curious way that doesn't just, like, you know, repeat the kind of same old pre-rehearsed answers. It's a real skill. And there's a lot at stake. There is and there isn't at the same time when you talk to a stranger. So yeah, I mean, big thumbs up to everybody who kind of went through the task. So thank you so much. Okay, last point from Margarita. She's got her yellow hand up, and then we're going to play some clips. We may not go through all of the clips, people, so please don't take it personally, just in interest of time, but we listen to all of them.
Actually, I would like to ask Eugene to tell about his experience, if you don't mind, because I connected him with a student in London, with a foreign student, and she called me later, very grateful for that. She was absolutely impressed.
Okay, interesting. Okay, all right. So Eugene, you've been called to the fore. Come on, let's hear your perspective. What was it like? And then we're going to go straight on and listen to these clips, because we are running a bit behind now.
Eugene. It's a definitely cricket moment there.
Okay, anyway,
Next time.
Eugene, we'll come back to you on that one. I think we just need to get straight into the actual meat of the clips. I mean, you know, it was really fascinating. I think, you know, in a way, we're doing two things here, and they don't always completely kind of tally with each other. In one hand, we want to teach you some of our skills and for you to develop your own skills as well and do it your way. But at the same time, we want to make these connections and have these conversations and understand each other's worlds. And those two things are actually two different things. And hopefully we're doing both together. So, you know, Hassan, when you're talking about like having this big conversation, I think that's great. And that's, you know, that's the other side of it, and making these connections. A few people have talked about, you know, actually long-term deep connections and getting these deep perspectives. So that's also important. Anyway, I'm just waffling now. So let's
You're just waffling on, but that's fine. Okay, we're gonna go straight into a clip. I'm gonna play Timna's clip.
Okay.
The one from today.
Okay, let me just make sure I've got the thing running with that. Hopefully I have. So play it and see if it works.
And I'll try to share my I'll share my screen because I love the picture.
Okay.
Some are actually
Okay.
Some are actually sympathizing with lesbians. Some are actually creating GoFunds. They are joining the movement. It is about creating a safe space for people. Yeah. So how is the space for lesbians in Kampala? How is the situation? Well, when you find a safe space, you can easily express yourself without any limitations. But when you are not in that safe space, then you've got to be cautious. You've got to pretend to be straight. You've got to pretend, you know, a heteronormative life. So that would mean that you have kind of a double life? Or am I understanding that in the wrong way? Yeah, definitely. You've got to have a double life because you risk your job. Actually, you risk your whole life and family. You know, most time they just support the system, so you risk it. you risk your friends, your in-laws, you risk your whole community. And for us, when it comes to community, clans are important. We have clans, so you risk shaming your clanmates, you risk shaming your family. You know, you have so much to lose, definitely. And you personally, how do you live that double life? I put it in small boxes. Yes, and I live my life in those boxes. And I have different parts of me that come out to play. Okay, I'm not sure. I think I didn't hear everything because of the connection. All right, from what I understood, you take out some parts of your personality and then you play around with it. Is that what you wanted to say? When I'm in a different space, I'm really a different person. Yeah. And how does your family deal with this whole situation? Oh, they don't know, so okay.
Thank you.
Hang on.
Timna, what was going on in this clip? There was like one voice.
I just wrote Timna was having a conversation with herself. No. Yes, is it? I think it's not on.
Hang on, give me a second. Okay, now, sorry about that. Whoops, yep. Go on. Say something.
Hi, hello, 1, 2.
Go on.
TIM, like Martha.
There
and
we
like
are, there we are. I don't know what
It's a
happened
very
there.
nice callback,
Yeah,
Timna.
yeah. So what happened? Why were you reading out the script?
So I was not having a conversation with myself. I just read it out, and it was the same voice.
Yeah.
At like midnight yesterday, and I had a discussion with my interviewee, and we recorded the video. Even with I could see it. We could see each other, but she asked me it would be to not show the video, and because she does not want to. It's too risky for her actually to be seen on screen, and to be. It's risky for her that other people know that she's a lesbian, and that she does this lesbian podcast. Yeah.
So it's kind of going back to that kind of question of, I suppose, consent. Oh, there's somebody's lit up, so maybe we can mute them. Oh, Hassan. Oh, strange. I thought your microphone is unmuted. Or maybe it's Eugene. It's unmuted. Yes, what I was going to say is, it was a very creative way of going about the kind of the limitation, the kind of the restriction of, maybe your interviewee not being comfortable with like revealing that part of her identity. But I mean, in terms of like, as far as the questions go, this is a question to everyone. And Lucy, I can see you've got your hand up. But I mean, I think I enjoyed how the questions went, and I think you kind of build a rapport with the person. But I mean, do you feel? Do we feel that you went deep enough, or was it easy actually to have that conversation?
I think for her it was easy to have that conversation. I think it was harder for myself to have the conversation because I was afraid of this, of asking the wrong questions.
Asking the wrong question. Has anybody had a similar experience with just like, oh, am I asking the right/wrong question? Was that ever something they were thinking about in your interviews? I think about that all the time.
Lucy?
Lucy, over to you.
Hey, amazing interview, and I really like that you revoiced it. One feedback would be maybe it took me a while to work out that it was you doing like interview versus like doing the voice of someone, and I was just thinking but towards the end you left like a bigger gap between like you asking the question and like you doing the voiceover, and then I started to understand that was you doing two things. But I thought it was that was the feedback, but the really, really wonderful and beautiful. And I was wondering, did you have like a discussion before? Did you kind of have a discussion beforehand that, because if you're being recorded, and if she was being recorded, she obviously was disclosing that information. And I guess you said that you talked after about the kind of confidentiality, but yeah, like how did you manage to, like, you created a really wonderful place where she could open up, and were there any discussions beforehand around what you could do around recording and confidentiality?
So the funny thing is that where the part which I took, it stops with an okay from my side. And I was making a joke about like, okay, we will not show this video to anyone. And then she already asked me, yeah, please don't show it to anyone. And I didn't know her, and I didn't know whom I'm going to interview. So it was like literally a stranger in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think what impressed me is how you got, you know, from, I mean, obviously we're all coming from a certain place, and I'm coming from London, where, I mean, there's a lot that I learned from that, about not just about Uganda experience of being gay or being queer, but also this thing about the clans, which I knew nothing about. And so I'm really learning a lot, but I'm also learning about what it feels like to be in that position. I think you did really well to kind of zoom in on that. I mean, it might also be that you had a very vocal and articulate interviewee that was ready to say those things already, but it felt very fresh and it felt very enlightening to me.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, she was just a podcaster, so she knew what she was doing. I was lucky. Yeah,
it was a lucky score.
Nice one. All right. Thank you, Timna. We're gonna move on maybe to Linda, just for something different. Moving the countries. So I'm just gonna play Linda's clip now.
The working systems here in Uganda, and they are quite different. I've come to recognize like the trade unions in Uganda when it comes like to maybe representing people in public service, maybe doctors or nurses. You find that they're always compromised by the government in a way, like they demand for salary increments, and it takes lots of years for it to come through. What challenges have you found with like the work that you're doing?
Yeah, the challenges are always like, because I also negotiate with employers, they say everything is okay. And in terms of the COVID crisis, they say, yeah, we appreciate what you did, but we don't have money for your wage increase, pay increase. And I think this is the biggest issue. Because we need to really ensure that the workers are paid adequately and to what they are doing. And also the problem is that we are suffering massive labor shortages in the health sector in Europe.
In the health sector.
Yeah, because there is the work is very intensive. The wages are not really good. Surprisingly, in some parts of Europe are not really good wages, like in Poland, for a nurse. So therefore there is not enough personnel in the health sector. Like for instance, a lot of nurses are very old. So there is not enough personnel, there is like a labor shortages, and therefore we need to ensure that we pay them well in order to make this sector attractive for the future generations. And we cannot really rely in Europe on workers coming from other parts of the globe, like for instance from Africa, because it's not really fair that someone like a nurse is trained in Uganda for money from the government and then is actually migrating to Europe. You know what I mean? We should really ensure that we support nurses in Uganda and in Europe.
All right. So that was Linda interviewing some mystery person there. I mean, Linda, do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about your experience? And also, from the whole interview, you went for this fragment. What was about this fragment? What convinced you to show us this bit of the interview? And I should also say that we had that privilege. Oh my.
Oh no, I had to turn you down, so I've got to turn you back up again. Sorry, go on. Try again.
So thank you, Linda, for your interview. And I've got a question about what made you pick out this particular fragment from the conversation with this person. And I should also say that is Linda? Do we have Linda here?
That was going to be my question, actually.
Oh no!
I don't think we've got Linda here.
Oh, I thought I saw her earlier.
Yeah, damn. I think she might have dropped off now.
Well, we'll patiently wait, yeah. But I
mean, I think we should talk about this clip in in Linda's absence, because I was actually listening in on this clip, and I thought it was good. We're getting to some interesting discussions. What I felt Linda could have done a bit more is, she talked a lot about the Ugandan perspective. I felt she could have turned that more into a kind of question. So there was a thing about, the interviewee saying, we don't want African nurses to come to Europe. We want them to, to benefit Uganda and benefit the people of Uganda. And there was, what wasn't in that clip was there was quite a long discussion about her views about that. But in an interview, you want to turn that into a question, like, maybe something like, do Ugandan nurses not have the right to work in whatever country they want, or isn't it up to them, or something like that, or, and really get into a bit more, because I felt that it was a very political kind of discussion, but I felt it could have got deeper. It could have zoomed in on what it feels like maybe to be, somebody, from, once again, it was also about the Ugandan nurse, and we didn't really hear what Adam's perspective was. And so, so I felt we could have zoomed in on what Adam was thinking, what his view of this struggle was, and what his perspective was.
And also, like, how much did we find out about Adam as a person, as opposed to Adam who has got views on the nurses or trade unions? I mean, as anybody else has any kind of thoughts? Well, what did you kind of pick out of this interview? Was there anything that interested you, or did you like fall asleep? I mean, what any kind of thoughts? If it were you, would you have asked a different question? Would you have done something differently, or did you enjoy the way it went? Because that, that's also fine.
Or just also on the views there. I mean, what do you think of what was being said as well? Because it's not just about how it's done; it's also about what we're talking about.
Also, content. Yeah. Horrible word.
But, yeah. Anything?
I think it's a strong cricket moment here again.
It's
re-cricketized.
So I mean,
all right.
Yeah. So Linda, hopefully you're going to be watching the recording. Maybe a bit, I don't know, finding out a bit more about Adam would actually get that a bit, I think, a bit more interest from this wider audience.
I'm going to move on to the next clip, and that's a clip by Kate. Kate submitted it, but I just need to double check whether that's the clip that I want to play.
What do you mean by that?
Let me just play it, and then it will be clear then to me what I mean.
All right.
I'm playing it.
Okay. Hopefully we'll have the levels right this time.
Right. People, let us know on the chat always if you can't hear something, or just wave ferociously or something, because we sometimes don't know. All right, playing.
Because there have been programs for women, and later on I realized there are some men who are complaining that while leaving the men outside, like the young men also may fail to acquire the same skills. It should be opportunity for all, like not leaving others out, like all sex.
It sounds like. Sorry, keep going.
Like giving equal chance for all,
It sounds like that's really important to you. Like you said, you did the project with some people who were deaf, and now you're working with this project, which is with men and women to try and make equal. That's very cool. And what would you say your hopes are for the new project? Like what's your dream for the new project?
all I can say this year, like currently, I'm thinking of having my exhibition like this year, but my dream is to have one of the biggest art gallery, like art center in Uganda, but I need it to be in Gulu, like the biggest art gallery in Gulu. I know it's a long journey, but process by process, I'll reach there. So this year, I'm planning to work on a project about girl child, like life of African girl child. So it will be my first solo exhibition. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I just want to be one of the biggest artists around, and I really want the world to recognize my talent. Just not only that, but I also want to share my knowledge with the world and the young generation. Yeah, you know, with talent, like, I mean, with art. For my case, when I was growing up, I remember I used to be beaten by my mom when I was 6, 7 there, because all my book would be full of drawings. So she could beat me, you know, African parents. And when I was growing up, my mind was not like my dream was not to become an artist, but I had the talent, you know. So after finishing my junior school, I had to join high school. And from there, I realized art, it's there. Art was there. It's subject, I mean. So I had to go along with it. And I used to be the best in art.
All right, maybe you can hear me now. Okay, so it wasn't the clip that I was going to play, but I'm glad we played it because I'm curious, Kate, why did you pick this clip?
I think I picked that bit. It was in the middle of a conversation, and I think it was because it was probably quite practical. I think it was probably the bit that had the most continuous, like, back and forth or sort of speaking, whereas maybe at the beginning and the end it was I didn't like think too hard about why that bit, but listening back to it, I was just remembering one thing that, like, you were talking about. I mean, I loved the interview. It was so great. Toten set it up and it was great. Like, Brenda was amazing, and I just remembered that because you were saying how it can be difficult sometimes when people have very different backgrounds or different opinions to you. But I remember feeling a difficulty around the fact that we agreed, because she was talking about allowing equal opportunity to different people to access art. And I found it difficult to phrase a question that sounded like if I said, why do you think that's important? It sounds like I don't agree.
Right.
That makes sense. Like,
why would that be a bad thing if you came across as you disagree?
I just felt like resistant to sounding like I didn't agree with something that I really do agree with. So for me, it was the opposite difficulty.
I do that all the time. I always ask questions, you know, where I'm in agreement with somebody. I do tend to just kind of play the devil's advocate and, you know, get their reason for it. You know, why is this important? That is a nice question. But also the other thing is, if you've got sort of similarities in terms of that struggle and that sense of equal opportunities or whatever it is, it's maybe you could think about what your struggles are and ask about that. I mean, I don't know what is the kind of, like, let's say, cutting edge of what you're doing. What are the difficulties, and could you turn that into a question for your interviewee?
Yeah. I also thought that it's interesting that you said that you were maybe a bit concerned about asking the kind of question which may come across harsh or something. And then you reverted to that kind of good old, what are your hopes and dreams? Which is, I mean, it's a perfectly open-ended question. But yeah, I mean, obviously we got an insight from this person, like they want to put on an exhibition. But the real killer for me was that towards the end, when she reveals something personal about her own childhood and how her own, ideas about maybe doing art or becoming an artist, and her mum being violent towards her, it kind of started making me realize the journey that this person was on. And I wish there may be, okay, I probably wouldn't know the depth of it if you hadn't asked the question of like, what are your hopes and dreams? But I just really wanted to hear more about, that kind of personal, a bit more about this person's personal story. And I do have actually now I remember which clip I wanted to play, and it is actually from Totem. So thank you everyone for this. Lucy, you've got your hand up. Have you still got it? Yeah, thank you. Go for it, Lucy.
Process of lowering a hand and unmuting, it takes a bit of time. Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of the like not wanting to seem like you are disagreeing with them by, I don't know, did you have your camera on? Because I don't know, my personal experience is I will just give like the look of like I agree, and then be like, but how come? Like kind of like they know that you're having a conversation, I guess.
That's right, yeah.
Just be like, yeah, like.
We're picking it up. Don't worry, Lucy. We're picking up your sense of agreement there very strongly.
But yeah, did you have a camera on, Kate?
Yeah, camera on, and I was, I think I was nodding.
Yeah.
I'm sure Totem, if you remember.
All right. Definitely having that kind of eye contact is just like priceless, and I think that's why we always ask. I think we mentioned that before, but if we can see a person, okay, there may be a delay, but we read so much from people's facial expression. You can be a real nasty person, tell it with a smile, so the other person is really confused. I think we've all been in these situations. Yeah. So it is possible. But okay, right. Let's play the clip which I really wanted to play. I've bigged it up so much now, I feel. All right, I'm gonna play now.
Okay, all right.
We're trying to network, we're trying to form relationships, we're trying to have conversations with people in positions of power who might be interested in our work. And also we are creating informal collectives of translators so that we can maybe pool our resources and work together to promote the sort of work that we're interested in. So I'm a member, along with Kate, of an organisation called Out of the Wings, which works with plays from Spain, Portugal, and the wider Spanish and Portuguese speaking world. And together we organise events to try and promote the theatre of those regions. But if you were to speak maybe with someone who's a translator of, say, Russian, they might have a different experience to me.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, like having a collective of like translators, so that really you people can really let the world know that translation is a service that someone can offer. I think it's really very brilliant. Do you like have specific themes? Like, okay, let's say if you have some work from a company that needs to be translated, like, okay, what are some of the themes that you've worked on? Are there specific themes? Like, do you have specific themes that?
Wow, that's a great question. How to answer that? I think that in the Out of the Wings collective, which I've just described, I think it's fair to say we don't have any specific themes. We encourage translators who work with us to bring to us whatever they're interested in. So we work with contemporary writing that might be dealing with socio-political themes, for example, but also we work with classic plays, so maybe work that might be 100 or so years old. It comes from a different tradition of playwriting, and also everything in between. We work with abstract work, we work with realist work. We try to be very broad. in terms of the sort of work that I find myself doing for theatres here in the UK, I work a lot with the Royal Court Theatre in London, for example, and the Royal Court Theatre is very interested in, especially when it comes to international work, they're very interested in plays that talk about sort of socio-political issues in the countries that they come from. For example, a play that I just worked on from Chile by a writer called Pablo Manzi, he wrote in the context of the recent uprisings in Chile against the right-wing government there. And he was very interested in themes of violence in society, themes of the idea of collective identity, themes of the idea of the common enemy, insofar as they speak to today's world. But equally, in the Out of the Wings collective,
Okay, we're back in the room. Okay, right. This is the clip that I wanted to play. Almost like a bit of a development of the theme that we had with the conversation or the interview about trade unions. I mean, I was going to put it out there. I mean, what do people think? What are your kind of thoughts and experiences of listening to this?
Teddy.
Oh, Teddy.
Hello. Yeah, I felt that this interview anybody could have been conducted this interview. The interviewee, it almost felt quite scripted from the interviewee. Like it could be talking about broad statements. I mean, I don't know anything about him, there wasn't anything particularly personal there. I've almost wanted Totem to really get in there and I think there's an argument to interrupt the interviewee there and try and find out something a bit more that isn't just like a pitch. It felt like I was listening to a pitch, and I find that very tough to hear.
Okay, that's some good feedback there, Teddy. Anyone else got any feedback about this?
And Totem, also from you, how was that for you? How, you know, yeah, how did you find it? Did you, yeah, what were the other questions they asked? Were you happy with the answer? Did you feel like, yeah, I know a lot now?
Okay, thank you so much. I feel my experience with the person that I interviewed, I feel like he was open to me. I mean, basically, maybe I decided to choose that section because I feel like he was open and was talking about his relation with translation. So I feel like the experience was great because I feel like it was open. So I feel like, okay, the questions that I gave him, like I feel he answered them the way maybe I needed like to hear. So yeah, that is like from me, like, but it was a great experience, like him talking about the industry and then translation as a service, you know. So it was.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting that point of the interview. I feel like the speaker kind of threw out like quite a lot of subjects that you know, the conversation almost like I was always like really curious about what is the kind of the next question. I wish that made it to your final cut, but I'll forever just like dream of what that question was. But I wonder whether you could kind of, you know, were there any interesting personally to you things that this person had mentioned that you could just ask them about their personal relation to? I mean, have you ever been to Chile? He talks about kind of political, I think right-wing government. I mean, do you have experience of, I mean, is that an issue in the UK? I mean, are you know, kind of thinking about, you know,
I mean, I think
making it personal.
Yeah. I mean, we
the
heard,
opening question was really good about the themes.
Yeah, I mean, we heard. Sorry to interrupt. We heard last session about all the different languages that there are in Uganda. So the question, I think, of translation and translating theatre, I think is relevant in Uganda, where you've got so many different languages. I guess the skill is about turning that into a question that the interviewee would understand. I sort of have to say I do agree a little bit with Teddy that it feels like he's talking about theatre, that he's reading from a script a little bit, or that he's got a certain thing that he wants to say. And that we heard this in a few of the interviews, that people have got a certain thing that they've kind of practiced saying about what they do. And they've maybe said it quite a few times. And I feel like this particular interviewee has said this a few times. So how do you personalize it? How do you make it relevant to you in Uganda? How do you kind of get past the thing that this person always says? And there's a few clips, it wasn't just this clip, there was a clip about somebody almost making a speech about equality. Who was that?
That was Teddy's first.
Teddy's one, yeah. So
nice
Teddy,
one, Teddy.
mate, someone there, yeah. Your interviewee was kind of making a kind of speech, and I felt like they'd kind of said this a few times before. So I think in the same way, how do you get underneath that and make it personal to your particular connection with this person?
And I think it's also a recognition of who is listening to it, because again, I mean, you're all creative people. We all kind of do creative things. So the chances are our interviewees would have been people who are of that kind of sphere. So it's not very strange that you have similar views to your other person, but it's almost about kind of not always playing the devil's advocate, but just kind of going beyond the obvious. Just because they're using the words that you understand and you have got some experience of, it's great that you agree, but what about someone else, you know, from outside of your bubble? What would bring them into this conversation?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we just are interested in. But yeah, I've got one more lined up, just like a little musical interlude as well there. So,
do you want to share the screen on this one as well, if you can?
I will try, because I tried it earlier and it's just not quite.
Oh, I was, yeah. Are you able to share the screen?
I hope so. Hey, people. No, I can't share this. I'll send you the link, Mikey. Maybe you can play it.
All right, we can try. I'm not sure if let's just play them.
Okay, we're just gonna just imagine this is a podcast, but the visual is there. We may, if this is okay with you, Gonzo, and Irene, we would like to put it on social media, but you can let us know later. Anyway,
maybe I can play it on my screen, and then everyone can kind of zoom in.
If you're able to do that, that'll be great.
And then we'll just do the sound levels.
Yeah, I'll just spotlight you, Gonzo.
And give Gonzo the co-host.
Okay. Hang on, how do I do that?
So this is speaking to your point, Louise, on the email about technical side of things. We kind of working stuff out all the time, always.
It says host disable participant screen share.
Hang on.
So you need to go into host.
Well, the anticipation is huge now.
Yeah, I just got to get through. I can barely see the screen because.
Top.
There we go. Okay. There we are.
Okay, we should do it now.
I think. Can you see it?
Yes.
What can you see?
We can see a road.
3 birds.
And can you hear the sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Can you hear the sound?
No.
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 All right. Well, let me.
You play the music. We'll play the sound.
Well, who's playing the music? I'm gonna. Let's just do for the audio. Let's go for the audio and
you play the audio.
Look out for this clip on our social media after the session.
Yeah.
All right, peeps.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hi, I'm Gonzo. Me and Irene and Younger from Uganda, we participate in Skill Lab's workshop, and as an assignment, we made these interviews asking friends about their experiences with creative folk and inquired about what art music means to them.
My name is Evelyn and I'm from London. Do you see a difference between music now and music about 30 years or 10 years before? But I feel that music 30 or more years ago was more raw. Today, with the availability of more instruments, collaborations and electronics, music has become more complex, more interesting, even more perfect due to huge competition, I think. How do you think musicians can use their music to influence culture and community positively? Can music be used to serve a greater purpose? Do you think music now is serving a greater purpose, or is it just sound for entertainment, and can it actually do more? There is more X factor expected in mainstream communities. Musicians really should use their music to comfort and calm down other person, just like lullabies work. But with the clubbing industry growing, people tend to steam off under more rhythmic music, which involves brain activities in a more sophisticated manner. Who are some of your favorite artists, music artists, and how do you think their music affects your thinking and actions? Some of my favorite artists are experimental electronic music producers like Lucine, Arvain, Son Martinez Gonzalez, and they affect my mind in kind of galactic melancholy mode.
What is your name?
My name is Razak Kamis.
My name is Joshua.
My name is Debbie.
My name is Mark.
My name is Charlotte Dania Patricia.
Do you know any local artists, or maybe any artists that you know personally?
Personally, I know Maurice Kiria, I know Jelena Kanyomozi, Winnie Nwazi, yeah.
Yes, I do know local artists, and one of them is Sam Chimera.
Yes, but not personally.
I know Bobby Wine. I like his music because for him he talks about the people down.
What do you like about their work, or any other observation that you find particularly interesting?
Not a lot these days, but he used to say Bobby Wine edutainment instead of entertainment, and most of his songs, me growing up in like a slum setting, I felt like his songs resonated with our lifestyle and our struggles. So most of his songs were about, food and corruption and all that, like everything that the less privileged in society go through.
How art and artists are affecting local communities?
Art and artists inspire people and help people move forward. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable.
I think art is a way someone can express themselves. Instead of actually talking about something, they can put it into art. Art is really a form of expression. Someone can express how they feel. It can be about excitement, it can be about what is happening in the community and how they can actually change something in a community through art.
Great, thank you, Gonzo and Irene. That was really great. I just want to shout out the production element of this, because it was really absolutely great, and I think it just made me really think about, when we do Talkaoke, yeah, it's a facilitation technique, yeah, it's an interview technique, but it's also a performance. And I think, particularly in that first section of the clip where the person's speaking and the voices are quite kind of soothing, it almost chimes with the music. And I think, it has got a certain quality. I mean, for us, conversation is a kind of art form as well.
Yeah.
There's a different tempo, there's a different energy level. And I would like to just kind of shout out, your energy as a host will have an impact on the person that you're speaking to, if so just think about that in general, and I would like to link it just with Lucy's clip, which we haven't played yet, but your infectious energy really brings elevates the energy of the speaker, which makes it an exciting thing to listen to. So that's just something that you have got control over as the interviewers, or as the Talkaoke host. But going back to this clip, yeah, I really loved it. Some really great questions. And again, I wish we just went a little bit deeper, but I love the question. Do you know any musician personally?
I mean, I thought, you really played to your strengths there, Gonzo, because you have got, you let your music do the talking in a certain sense, because the change of the music over the clip, which related to what people were saying, really enhanced what they're saying and gave a little bit of more of a connection. So, that was a very creative response to the question, I thought. from our side, yeah. I mean, I guess you've only got 3 minutes, but I thought you could have maybe gone a little bit deeper. I thought it was a very good question about how does music make you feel. Maybe there wasn't time to go a bit deeper into that. And I really love the way you responded with music to the question about music. So,
it created a mood, it created an atmosphere. It was just like really taking us into a different space as well, which obviously music.
I mean, as we move into the second phase of this, we're going to ask you to do exactly what Gonzo's done and be more creative and bring your own creativity into this. We're, in a way, this first 4 sessions, we're on the 3rd session now, so the next one is more about kind of our approach, but we do actually want you to incorporate your approach into this laboratory, and that's very much where we want to go with this. So
and because this was a joint clip, I just want to say that I really enjoyed Irene, your questions to the first person. Similarly, I think you could have gone a bit deeper with the questions, but I mean, even this question of like, has the music changed over the generations? I would like to know how in impression, because the speaker, I think she's of a different generation to you, and I wondered whether there was something that maybe you were curious about in terms of the world that she's coming from. Could there be more kind of questions that you could ask the person? Because I think, because she also talks about the music being a reflection of the environment, and I just wished there was some more. I mean, Irene and Gonzo, I mean, do you want to just give us like a little bit of how you found this journey? How did you find asking the questions? Any surprised answers or anything?
So yeah, me and Irene, we kind of connected on WhatsApp, and so we decided to go with kind of dead questions and kind of send each other's kind of scripted questions, and then go out in the field and find somebody who can answer them, because like it was practically impossible. Irene was working and I was kind of busy as well, so we couldn't find any kind of live moment where we can kind of pass on the phone to our friends or someone. So we sent out the questions, and Irene managed to get a lot of the interviews from her local places, and there was quite a lot of things that they were saying and talking about, and it was quite interesting. And I kind of edited it to this short amount of text. I wish it was live. Now I can see how it can kind of work more deeper, but and yeah. So
how long did it take you to edit this together?
A few hours, but it was it was a bit of a kind of focused work. There was quite a lot. There were like five people, and each had like a few minutes of and the last speaker about Bobby Wine, who's like now is like the big kind of opposition leader to the present regime in Uganda, and there was this story about him and how she perceives him, what she doesn't like about him. That was interesting. And I asked Irene to kind of I pointed out about Bobby Wine, and then she told a story that you can hear in a bit after, where she tells about the slum and how he comes there, and that a lot of the people can relate. So yeah.
So there's a lot of background. There's a lot of background here, basically squashed into 3 minutes.
Yeah, it could have been more interesting to make it live, but yeah.
And what about the music? Where was the music coming from in the background?
So my music, there's and I chose kind of some kind of instrumental version of Bobby Wine's music. I don't know from. I'm not familiar, so it was just there. Some of the musicians that were kind of interviewed, they had some kind of background sound. You can read that they were in some kind of studio environment that was like changing tracks or repeating something. So and I think there was a couple of musicians and a few people that I think are not directly connected to any arts. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Gonzo. Yeah, so that was that one. I mean, I know I'm very conscious of time, but I just want to play. Can I play 2 more clips?
2 more clips.
Oh,
We're running so behind.
Okay. So running really behind.
Yeah.
Okay, people. Okay. I mean, I'll play 1 clip.
Okay. All right.
My name is Vanessa Amali Okwa, and I am from Kampala, Uganda. I am known as the Phenomenal Flower or MC Flower, an MC, a poet, and an aspiring sound recordist.
The main negative thing in your life at the moment?
I could say the main negative thing for me at the moment, being a 20-year-old and being queer, could be that, like, I am accepted in the people that know who I am and what I do. Like, they fully accept me for who I am. But for other people, it's kind of hard to take you seriously because where I'm from at the moment, it's not something that's very received.
Is it something you talk about in your music?
Not yet, but I am trying to bring it up in my poetry. That's where I'm trying to bring in the whole gender, like, you know, who I am and what I believe in. So that's how I'm trying to bring it up. So, yeah.
What's the situation?
It's illegal, basically. You cannot sit there. You are not allowed to come out, but you could choose to come out. People that you think that would take you or like want you for who you are, but it is very much illegal and it could be dangerous because you cannot be out there being yourself. You could get arrested, or if you're not arrested, like the people in the community could take it into the issue into their hands and they could deal with you however they wish to. And considering the fact that there is I don't want to call them old people, but like the older generation who in their minds, like they're stuck to one thing. There is no way you're going to convince them otherwise. And then there is us that we believe in completely different things. So there is also that huge gap, you know?
What happens if you're old and gay?
Old.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We discussed that earlier, and I think it was just a very interesting interview, and I think the questions were good. I think that kind of the clarity and just like directness of the what's it like to be older and gay, I think to me that was just like a brilliant question, because it was just straight to the point, and I think you had a very kind of generous speaker there, Louise, so it was in a way maybe easy, but I think it was that kind of unusual opening of the conversation with the negatives, which we mentioned before. Definitely surprised us, but it worked out really well.
I thought that worked well, actually. Obviously these are very short clips, and it is difficult to kind of really get inside that world. And I thought it was going somewhere. We didn't really hear how that progressed, but I don't think your interviewee really answered the question about being old and gay. And I think it was kind of like, in a way, it's a little bit too far out of her ballpark. To get it, because I think it just. I don't know. Other people come in to help me here, but
She did say a lot more about it, but because I had to cut it down, and she said some other really interesting things. She did have a lot of interesting things to say. It was hard to edit it.
How did you feel about that, that sense of like getting into the personal side of it? Did you feel like you wanted to? I know you talked about it a bit at the beginning, but maybe you could just say again.
Yes, she was a very generous speaker. Yes, she was in thanks to Baba, she was in a safe space that he's created there in his studio, which is a very supportive and safe space. So she already, we played into a general conversation. We could have talked for hours. That the interview went on for 20 minutes, and I thought, oh God, I'm never going to get through the editing. So there was a lot there, and I just wanted to end it on a positive note, because I wanted the interview to go somewhere, to have a bit of a journey. But there was a lot. There was, we could have spoke all night about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of hands have gone up on the Zoom. Also, just want to remember there's also people here in the studio. So I feel like I've slightly ignored the people in the studio. Margarita, Timna, Elam. So if you've got views on this as well, do come in. But Linda, you had a point, and I think Gonzo, you had a point as well.
Yeah, I was just interested, kind of about what was the continuation of this? Like, what was the answer to the what happens? Like, maybe in a short, like, what happens with all the gays in there, or if was there any answer, or was it like the same answer as the first part?
Basically, expanding on the first part, that that there aren't you have to deny. If you're older than about 30 or maybe 40, it's just not a thing. Those were her words. It's just not a thing.
Yeah. Some really interesting points, and it's. I personally think that's a conversation that we could have between us from the London Uganda side, and and go quite a long way with that.
I just want to jump in and play one more clip.
You want to play one more clip?
Yeah.
You're joking me?
No.
We've still got to get on to the next thing. Okay.
Is it okay if we...
All right, okay, let's
minutes?
just...
Sorry.
Very quick.
Just one more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
My network is not very good, and so I have to apologize for that.
Okay, but I can hear you. It's just that I think the sound is delayed, so we can work with that. All right. So how I can help?
Okay. We may not be able to hear that. Yeah. 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 Hang on a second again.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry. Apologies. Something just I went weird with my computer.
It's because we're caning the bandwidth here because we've got 4 Zooms going on at the same time.
So okay. I propose the following. Why don't I explain the homework?
Yeah.
And have a chit chat about that, just in the interest of people's time, and then we will listen to some more clips afterwards in the kind of the long tail.
Okay, yeah, great.
Some feedback. Yeah. Okay, people. So for this next one, for the next session, which is going to be in 2 weeks' time, but the day is actually a Thursday.
It's actually going to be in 12 days' time, so there's a little bit of a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, because there's obviously the Easter.
We've got Easter coming up.
Now, yeah, exactly, and then so. The question here, what we would like you to do, we're going to pair you up into bigger groups. So there's going to be 2 pairs working together. So it's 4 people or thereabouts. We'll try to kind of do the maths in the kind of most convenient way as it is. You should get your email today about the exact instructions. Then what we would like you to do, and I can help with structuring that process so that you don't feel like you have to be on WhatsApp all the time, responding to groups' messages all the time, because I know everybody's super busy. But there's a way of kind of doing it, gradually. So that we would like, within your groups, go away and within the week, go and research some kind of mass media format. It could be from television, could be some kind of TV show, could be a game show, could be, a program on, Instagram, something that is a televisual kind of performative format, Mikey.
No, I just want to say the reason why we want this is because at the People Speak, one of the things that really drives us is kind of a love-hate relationship with mass media, with TV and radio and film, in that we love it, but at the same time, you know, especially me personally, I find it very controlling, very much sending out the values of the established community rather than, you know, bringing in the voices of the whole community. And yeah, and I think it's, in a way, it stamps out like these wider values that we're hearing in these conversations today. So, you know, at the same time, it's great because it's well produced and it's fun. So it's kind of like this love-hate thing. And so I'm wanting to explore, if you've got a similar love-hate relationship with media, with TV, with radio, with whatever's happening on YouTube or TikTok, have you got the same, that sense of, I love this, I hate it, I love it, I hate it?
Or just love it.
Just like,
or just hate it.
Or is it just I'm not interested
Just
at all?
not really watching TV.
So, you know.
Lucy, you've got your hand up, but I can simplify what that ask is.
Well, I was just wondering whether it was around, like, is the ultimate aim to be able to facilitate more powerful conversations between people in the televisual process, or is it just picking a general love-hate thing and trying to adapt it? Is it like kind of no thinking, pick a thing, or is it the main aim is to try and, you know, speed up connection quicker in this process and get conversation?
For me personally, what it's about is, like, you know, what drives you. So I can say what drives me, and it's very much about talk shows and about, you know, very, very frustrated that they're so controlled and scripted. But that's me, and this Skills Lab is not about me, it's about all of you.
Yeah.
And what is actually, you know, winding you up? What are you kind of annoyed by, but you want to change or want to do something about? So, you know, I'm hoping that you're like me in that you get passionate about these things, but I want to hear about your passion and what you're passionate about.
And I would just say that for me, this task is about just having fun, just seeing what's out there, what kind of television and social media things are being produced. We are interested in how within these shows, within these formats, what is the role of the participant?
Yeah.
What is the show actually doing? What kind of journeys are taking you on? For instance, I'm just going to use an example of The Inverse Apprentice, a TV show which was big in America, big in the UK, and the idea was to put, in a contrived way, somehow select via a bunch of interviews, or I don't know what, CV and personality types, put together a team of people who will then supposedly work as a team to fulfill a business task, but essentially the business tasks were kind of happening within the structure of how, you know, what we think of success is, what is kind of working in big corporations is about, and it was ultimately about pleasing, getting thumbs up from
the boss,
the boss, who had quite a linear kind of progression route. Okay, fair enough. Some people really love it, but we just got really interested. It's like, what is this message saying to the people watching it? What is this saying to us about how employment is structured, how the values are structured, what about creativity? So it threw up all these questions. So we then went away and created our own format called The Inverse Apprentice, which I will not bore you with, but we just kind of picked what we hated, analyzed what's actually going on there and what we did with it differently, and decided to do something differently with it, using that format.
So we just...
Sorry, I was just going to say, is the homework...
No, this is answering a previous question about what's the kind of purpose of it. What are we doing? What are we just going away and doing what? So go watch lots of TV, crap TV, where there's some kind of participants' involvement. Then pick one which evokes some kind of emotions, positive, negative, neutral, and communicate with your group, share what you found, and discuss it. That's what we would like you to do.
And also bear in mind, you're coming from different places in Uganda, but also in the UK. We've got Russians, we've got Austrians, we've got Poles, we've got people from London, we've got people from more rural areas. So, you know, you're going to have different things. So also think about what you're bringing that you've got a little bit of expertise in. But it's just literally about picking a show or a format or something and showing it to the other people. That's all we want you to do at this point.
Hit the crickets. The theme tune for today.
Has anyone got an example of a show they really love or hate? Just one, just to get us going, to start this process? Okay, Timna, come in. Thank you, Timna. Go on.
Someone's, yeah.
I gave the example, I wrote it in the chat, the Barbara Karlich show. It's, I think, the most successful talk show format in Austria.
Yeah.
And they always have a specific, it's a classical talk show format, and they always have a specific subject, but I have the impression that they show more underprivileged people to actually, that other people who are seeing the show feel better than the people which are
so it's a kind of poverty tourism in a way.
Yeah, and in the meantime, sometimes they have topics which are super interesting, and where you say, okay, it's actually good that they speak about these things. But I have to say, it's more a hate-love than love-hate.
I have to say that for me, it normally is as well, more of a hate, and I can totally relate to that completely, Timna. Teddy.
Married at First Sight, Australia one.
What is it about the Australian one?
It's probably the most successful, or it's definitely the one that's got the most amount of series. And the experts on there are particularly jarring, but also the whole thing of like man meets woman, and that's it. Okay, so we've got two genders. That's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot to be said. Maybe I'll focus in on that.
Okay, good stuff.
Great. Anyone else has got a TV show that they want to just kind of throw out there? Timna, you've had your go. I'm going to open up to.
Yeah.
Anyone else watches TV? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be TV. It could be something on the internet. It could be something on the radio. It could
Lucy?
be a podcast.
I like The Unbelievable. I like this one, and I have zero critiques, and I like it. It's called The Unbelievable Truth, and it's on BBC Radio 4, and it's got comedians, and I guess it's like a panel show rather than like random participants, but they get given a topic, and they have to write an essay that is completely false apart from 5 truths, and so they like write this comedic thing, and it's full of like loads of mad stuff, but some of them are true, and they have to like buzz in and say which is wrong and which is false, and it's just hilarious, and that's my favorite.
We also have the Master Chef from Kate, and we've got Hard Talk on the BBC from Colin. So we look forward to see where that kind of takes. Are there any shows on? Val? Yeah.
No. Have you watched?
No idea about any TV show.
No.
So that's going to be an interesting week.
It's going to be some heavy research. You're going to have square eyes by the end, Margarita.
Shall I find that on YouTube or where?
I
don't have I haven't paid for TV license.
Oh God! No.
I don't think anyone here has paid for a TV license in the UK. We just got some.
Police. All right. Well, so what we will do, people, I think what we could do as a plan, I will send you an email today just outlining who your group is and just have a chat. And my suggestion, people, would be to take time between now and next Saturday just to kind of research, download, chat, find out from people who do watch TV, do some Google searches about the shows, and then maybe agree with your group, once you know who they are, to share that the next Saturday or on a day where everyone can just like be on their WhatsApp, because I just want to avoid people just sending messages to each other loads. I mean, do it how you want it. It doesn't really matter to me, but just knowing that people have got a lot going on, maybe research for a week. On Saturday, exchange your suggestions, links, clips, have a Zoom chat, whatever you want to do, and then maybe have a chat about it, and then bring those things to the following session, which I will remind you what the date is. It's an evening session, and maybe be prepared to talk about it, explain the rules, because maybe you've seen it. Maybe we'll get some, similar shows. So, we'll play the kind of TV show
we'll
bingo.
watch a few of them, and so send a few links to us, or we'll try and watch some of them as well.
Yeah, please, exactly, and maybe on the social media, just share some links so we can have some fun as well, because we need to do some research as well. So this has been really good. So this would be my suggestion. So look out for an email, find out who your group is, and then go and watch some junk. And then what I would suggest now, because this is the long tail, maybe the clips that we haven't played, maybe we could play some of them now so people can get a little bit of feedback, or we can just have a chat about them because we watched all of them. So yeah.
So basically now the official session
The official is over.
And let's get some final thoughts before we end the official session, because that's what we always do, what we love to do. So before we all go, let's have some final thoughts. Has anyone got any final thoughts?
Or initial thoughts.
Yeah, or initial thoughts. Ellen, you've not said much today. Have you got a final thought, an initial thought? Here's a mic.
Conversation, the chats just about music. So, you know, Evelina suggested that, you know, perhaps we could make like a playlist of, you know, maybe some songs from Uganda. I know Gonzo is a musician. It would be great to hear some of his music. And there's another musician here. So
Colin
perhaps
as well.
we could curate like a playlist for Talkaoke Skills.
Yeah, well, that will be good. I think an ongoing thing and a developing thing, so that's a good thing. Any other final thoughts for people on Zoom? Final thoughts?
We will need some copyright-free music for the final event. So yeah, please, let's create this list.
Final thought, Web Weary? Have you got a final thought?
Yeah, so I just loved how experimental everyone that is participating in this project is, you know, and like being able to open up into a new space and being able to actually interact with people across the globe, across the continent. Basically, we're breaking boundaries with this Talkaoke Skills Lab. We are also sort of like engaging ourselves in intercultural dialogue to understand different cultures and how different cultures look at things, and also maybe debunking some of those narratives. I'm very particularly interested to see how participants in this program sort of like can connect with each other on a much more deeper level, and not just after the skills lab. You can work on programs and projects in collaboration. Also, my observation is a number of them are becoming more comfortable to be in the space. I understand it's virtual, but I'm pretty much looking forward to a much more physical engagement and meet each other and all that. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Webberry. Can you give us your favorite TV show? Just the title.
Myself?
Yeah.
Okay, I think someone mentioned it, the Hard Talk. I like listening to that one where Steven Saka puts some of those big leaders on I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, that's one of my favorites. There's also one from, most of my favorites are from the BBC. I don't know why, for some reason, but also I have some favorites in Kampala here, like the creative talks that I host personally, where we bring creative people to speak about what inspires them and why they do what they do. Thank you.
Thanks, Webberry.
Okay, any one last final thought?
Oh, we are opening the long tail.
Let's open the long tail. Okay, I'm going to just hit the theme music, and that means the official part of the session is over, and now we're on to long tail. So leave if you want to, stay if you want to.
Yeah, go and have a cup of tea, a wee-wee, that's what I will do. But then we're going to come back and just kind of go through some clips. So if you want a little bit of feedback on your clips, just stick around. Or if not, that can happen later, because remember there'll be the mentoring sessions coming up as well, which I will email you about as well.
Okay, it's got some applause coming through.
Oh, right, Linda's like multiple applause and waves.
Yeah.
Back at you, Linda. Thank you so much.
I have to say, I'm not a big fan of hard talk. I have to say, I think it's like a performance of grilling people, but it's not really actually grilling them, I don't think.
I've never listened to Hard Talk before, but I listened to an episode via the podcast app yesterday, and it was an interview with Naomi Campbell, and I thought, oh wow, like I'm learning quite a lot about someone who I have known, over the years. But yeah, I really enjoyed the interview with her. So I'm definitely going to listen to more of their episodes
throw
now.
the link into the
I'll pop the link in the chat.
Yeah.
It was insightful. And she's done a lot of work with like Uganda, South Africa, Nigeria. So
yeah, interesting. Okay.
All right. So why don't we? All right. So I'm just gonna go and have a wee and top up some water.
Yeah.
Who wants to go through the clip?
Do you want to play another clip?
Yeah.
I don't know how it's done, so we'll have to wait for you to come back and then we'll have a chat.
Can someone tell me what the structure of Hard Talk is? I haven't seen it.
Wabiri, you still there or is he gone?
I'm still here.
Colin knew this one as well. Colin.
Okay, so just explain
I'll share the
Hard
link
Talk
of the Hard Talk.
a bit more.
Yeah, let me share it in the group.
Hard Talk.
Is
already
it?
Sounds
Yeah.
like I switched off already.
I don't know.
Soft talk.
Soft talk. You want the soft talk? Maybe
When
that
was
is
that
what we can do. Our version would be soft talk.
Sounds like a bedtime podcast. Someone talking really softly.
Easy talk.
Easy talk.
Easy talk. Yeah.
That's right. Chit chat.
Yeah.
I've started listening to a podcast recently called Shagged, Married, Annoyed. Has anyone heard of that?
No.
It's so good. It's this couple from the northeast in the UK, and they Geordies, I think, and they just like they're married couple. He's a comedian, and I think she's a bit of a comedian as well. And they just like chat with each other and like completely take the piss out of each. It's just so fun. Then they have a section that's like a bit like the annoyed bit. They're like, so today's niggle is, why do you always leave the toilet seat? Like they kind of just like go at each other, and then they read stories from it's just so funny. I recommend to anyone.
I really like those sort of personal podcasts because I listened to one called My Favorite Takeaway, and it's just two guys from London, and they just talk about their favorite takeaways in London, and it's quite nice because there's some that I know, and I've actually gone to one of the places that they recommended, so I just love the way it's so local to me. And so yeah, I really can't wait for the next season. It was this Filipino restaurant in Highbury.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really nice.
My favorite takeaway, right?
Yeah, it's called My Favorite Takeaway. They're just chatting, really chit-chatting about and sometimes they have guests as well. So
it's a bit like when you're on a train. I always have people, I really love to listen into people's conversations on the train, and I have a very bad poker face. So, and I think I also have bad hearing. So like if people are talking, I just like end up like staring at them, like trying to hear. But that's just the dream, is to just listen into other people's conversations.
Yeah. You have to switch your headphones off sometimes, you know.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts, suggestions? Well, we're going to play a few more clips in a bit, but
what are some like Ugandan podcasts that anyone would recommend? You know, any podcasts about Ugandan food or anything like that?
Or is it is it just limited to Uganda? Is it other parts? I mean, where Weary's favourite was I think it's on BBC World, isn't it? Hard Talk. So, I mean, do people in Uganda listen to Ugandan podcasts? I mean, we've got a few podcasters in our group. Plus, I think your interviewee was also a podcaster.
That one,
so
I'd love to listen to that one.
Yeah, you can share the link. What podcasts do you Ugandan people? What do you listen to? Ugandan podcasts or more international stuff?
I was listening to too many American podcasts, I realised, so I had to just
we a lot of the stuff we watch and listen to comes from the US. Let's say probably 50%, would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. And sometimes I'm like, whoa, I'm taking in too much American content.
Yeah.
Let's broaden it out to other countries
well as
what's the moment?
Why so much American stuff?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. What's the moment where you're like, this is too much American?
I think sometimes when, there's a podcast called This American Life. American Life. But then I just realized it was too political for me, and very local political stories. And I just thought, I can't really see how this relates to the broader context of my life, how I'm living. I don't know. And also I just kind of thought, yeah, this is too much. Let's see what's,
And then also, Margarita, you come back. You've come back now because you don't watch TV at all. Do you listen to podcasts? Do you do anything? You know, do you have any media that you actually?
I guess I'm addicted to social media.
Oh, so social. What kind of social media?
Yeah, what apps?
What are you on?
At the moment, I'm on Telegram mostly.
Telegram,
Since
right.
the Russian invasion in Ukraine started, I discovered a few Telegram channels giving fresh news, and I'm starting learning Ukrainian through this information about this terrible event there in the Ukraine. So
for a social media noob, what's Telegram?
What is Telegram?
Telegram is sort of social media. So I've never been into that, and I discovered that recently when I got the links.
I mean, is it like Instagram? Is it like a Russian Instagram? How does it work?
I'm not sure if it's Russian or not. Probably it could be.
It is actually Russian. So
is it?
Telegram is Russian. It was invented by an entrepreneur, and then I think he invented something to start with, and then he kind of fell out of favors with the Russian government, and then he's like, well, fuck you, I'm just going to start something different, and he started Telegram, and that really took off. But I don't think he lives in Russia anymore.
I see. So I'm subscribed to a few actually Ukrainian channels.
Yeah. And what are they saying? What is different about what they're saying to what we're hearing maybe in
They update the information too frequently.
Right,
That's what I hate, because I'm absolutely.
You get a lot of detail.
Yeah, and I do know at which moment. Oh, what is it in English? Повітряна тривога. That means the siren which announced the artillery or other bombing.
Siren.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know at which moment it happens in Ukraine, in which city or area. So even this. So that's not I would not say that's a private channels. So somehow they aggregate.
I got a question.
Yeah, go on.
No, I just find it interesting how you said you learnt Ukrainian through the Telegram
That's
app.
terrible, actually.
So how did you end up learning it? I mean, what language do you speak originally?
My language is Russian.
Okay.
And somehow I can understand, but just a bit.
So it's quite similar. Okay.
It's not quite similar.
Oh, it's not
it's
quite
just
similar.
a bit similar.
It's a bit similar.
So sometimes I have to copy and Google Translate it.
Right. Oh, how interesting. Wow.
And sometimes I have imagine what could it mean. So повітряна тривога, повітряна means depends with wind, somehow related to the
And they get not panic, but
Тревога means тревога. That's the same. That means panic.
Right. Okay. Panic.
But in Russian, they say the same word for this. Тревога, announcement that you should go to the shelter.
Yeah, not terror, but it's
Yeah.
It's funny because that's.
Повітряна, sounds different because in Russian it would be like air alarm.
Right.
And in this case, it was like a wind alarm.
Right. Okay.
For my Russian ear.
Okay. Let's bring in some of the people. Any questions about this for people online or any?
Find out what Linda listens to.
Linda, what are you watching? Do people even watch TV anymore?
Yes, we do.
Oh.
Yeah.
I really like Dragon's Den.
Okay.
Yes, it's like business moguls and people bring in their businesses in order to try to get funding, all to give away shares and get money. Yeah, and it's really good watching the big businessmen, say, oh my God, I really like your business. I want to invest. And it's a lot of money. Yeah, I think here in Uganda, we have tried to do that somewhat. But here they can just say we're going to have a grant of 100 million. So if you have a good business idea, come.
you know, tell us your
Mm.
idea. It's not like in Dragon's Den where it's like the businessmen and they say that I'm going to buy shares in your company, which is different. Because I think in where they have a lot of money and they can do that. Yeah. So I really like it.
I mean, I have to say I prefer Dragon's Den to The Apprentice, but I find it a little bit, you know, in the same criticism of it, that it's all about the old, what we call in England, pale male stale. The old white men with the money making the decisions. You know, I mean, the good thing about it is I think there's more constructive advice often on Dragon's Den than you get on The Apprentice. Lucy.
I quite like. Oh, my microphone's been on. Sorry if there's been background noise. What I find frustrates me about any format and anything, like I remember I used to really like The Apprentice, or I really used to like X Factor, and then the people who run it work out what works well and what the formula is that works well, and just like aggressively goes hard on that format, and like, right, we found this character trait works worse with this character trait, so we're going to pick the exaggerated version of that, and we're going to cut the clip to the worst bit, and they just go become like
it becomes a parody of itself.
Yeah, parody of itself. And then I'm like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. This is, and then that's when I like tap out of lots of stuff. So you have that sweet spot of like series 2 and 3 and 4, often with like most stuff that is their peak. And then they try, and sometimes they become more self-aware, but that's just my like pet hate, is that like people who think that they've sorted it and done it.
This is true with a lot of reality TV shows, but the thing that I really get extremely upset about with Apprentice is how manipulative it is, especially in the editing, the way they edit things together, which, as someone that, if you've ever done any editing, you know that those things didn't happen in a synchronized manner, but they've just created a kind of fiction to actually exacerbate these character traits, as you say, to make a kind of story which is actually in real life a lot more nuanced than it is in the final video product, and that really gets me.
But I think with editing, I also just kind of speaking back to that point about the news. I think the way, just even like the sheer availability of news, that you can get it from Telegram, from social media, from this, that, and the other. It's just kind of like, I mean, I know that manipulation or fake news is like as old as the world probably, but you know, just being overwhelmed by the volume of information, and then, you know, news, the actual reality has to compete with everything else that's out there, and it has to be presented in a way that would catch people's attention. Like the truth is just like not appealing enough, like they're kind of like straight to the point. But then people's ideas of like what's the truth differ as well. It's such a relative world we live in.
You know, one thing I realized in the last couple of months is, even when it comes to the war in Ukraine, they can be, actually, just separate from that, moving on from that point, just in general, I realized that there can be multiple truths at one time anyway. That's how I feel now, because it's like, you say your opinion, and then there's just so many different perspectives. And the reality is, but if you're not in that situation, you don't really know what the truth is. You're just sort of guessing what the truth is. I don't know. Yeah.
Have you heard that the Ukraine is trying to, well, they want to put a team and forward for the World Cup? Is it the World Cup? I'm not a sports head, but the World Cup. But I just think that which is the team that is gonna, like a country that is currently going through crisis and war, gonna beat that team? Like, it's just, I feel like it wouldn't be a good look to like, you know, go hard on it, like people who's like,
you have to. I mean, it's Scotland that are going to play Ukraine to see who's going to go into the World Cup. But and Wales after that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just funny to think like, it's just, yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't want to be in that team playing. I don't know.
Sorry. Lucy, I can totally understand your point of view. I think what we should not forget about playing football, I'm not a sports expert, but football is also something where people like really come together and play together. And I think giving also Ukraine the possibility to show them again might be a good thing. I don't know, but I think it's kind of an ambiguous situation. But I think what would be interesting for me, and what I'm asking myself is, are actually the football players allowed to go out of Ukraine? Because I think they close the borders for males, for men who are older. Okay, there are exclusions.
Yeah,
but
I mean, as a footballer, I guess you've got a higher calling than protecting your country. You've got to score a goal at the World Cup, which somehow is, I guess, more important. I think it might be time just to bring this to a close. We call this the long tail, but I would like to ask everyone out there and people in the room, is there any final comments or thoughts or questions that you'd like to say before we go?
I have a question. That was the question from my experience of interviewing for this homework. So what I'm actually, Margot, you asked me why didn't I include my own questions? Because actually the person I was interviewing, he would answer in such a deep and long way. So for each single simple question, he would like have a whole an hour long lecture, I would say. So and that was fantastic. That was interesting. And sometimes I just said, sorry, let me interrupt you, blah blah. And that was not like listening to a lecture, but that was quite interesting. That was exciting. We were communicating, but in the case when your interviewee responds in a way of giving you a very long speech, what are you supposed to do?
Well, I mean, there's different reasons. I mean, certainly in Talkaoke, I would discourage a long chat, but I'm also looking at all the people around the table to see if they're super engaged and let that person carry on. But quite often what you find in Talkaoke, which is, not just a one-to-one interview, but you're actually having to deal with lots of different people. Quite often people say something again and again and again, and actually they're saying just one point, but they're rephrasing it. And the reason why they do that is because they're not getting enough response from the audience and from the moderator. So in that case, you have to be a bit more enthusiastic in their response, and if they, hopefully they will pause for breath at some point and just go, that is a great point from Margarita. What does everyone else think about Margarita's point? If you can use their name as well, it's really useful, because then you're giving them everyone needs a feedback. That's why we've got this, and even this. That's why we've got these things, so that people can get some feedback and some response. And in real life, people are not getting that response. So you have to give them a bit more response.
But I would also say, in terms of on the subject of interrupting, I think if you're in the flow and if you can kind of relax enough to approach it with a bit of humour, I think that can go a long way. What I sometimes do when I host, I just say okay, you hit me with so much now, I just need to stop it here. I'm just going to recap what you had just said, just highlight some of the main things, and then just see and almost offer it up to the table. So okay, so we talked about hairdos, Ukraine, social media. I mean, where do people want to take this? But I think it's okay to kind of not exactly play the clown, but just kind of say you're giving me a lot. And I think sometimes when it gets intense, I think we sometimes say to people, when there's a lot of people and everybody wants to contribute and conversation is going well, I think we sometimes say okay, 1 point per microphone. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to be so prescriptive, but sometimes we just kind of use it as a kind of backup. So, okay, I can see that you're seeking in another point. Let's just stay with the first one. What the people,
I mean, I think for your participant, having listened to it, I thought maybe he was giving a little bit of, if I've got the right one, he was giving a little bit of a kind of speech. It's almost like he'd spoken it 100 times already. It came across a bit like that. So, I think, sometimes you want to get beyond something we were saying, you want to get beyond that to a more spontaneous kind of creative discussion where you know, it's not someone standing on a soapbox, but actually, you know, you're almost kind of creating something new together.
I mean, just looking, Lucy, I can see you've got your hand up, but
You've got both your virtual and your real hand up.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm.
but I mean, because he was talking about the kind of celebrating the everyday people, right? And I think, I mean, okay, we artists, you work in archives, and you know, you live for personal stories. But I almost wanted you to ask, like, but why? Why? Like, why? Do you have an experience of that? Like, do you celebrate your mum? What? Like, why? You know, but you know, without feeling like, oh shit, have I just offended him? Which I think was concern earlier, or yeah.
But he explained that before. I just didn't include that.
Oh, okay.
But because that was a fantastic conversation, actually.
I see. Okay.
Lucy?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to jump in and be like, if you feel like they're giving a spiel or doing something they've already said, and they're in the middle of a speech, I don't know, I've a few times with the interviews I've done so far, is just kind of, it's like, okay, so I start with like, so what do you do? And then just like cut them off. And I'm like, so why? Like, well, not why, but like, what is in what was the one that I did? What is inclusive dance? And they were just like kind of
started with high energy, but it was a good question actually.
Yeah, and it kind of like it deconstructs. They're like, oh, is that the format that, because you're kind of dictating what you want from the format, and then it's like, oh, you're just going to pick on the thing that as I'm talking, okay, and then it kind of, because they're now disrupted in what they're normally saying, they have to then think about it, and it like slows them down a bit. I've found.
That's a good point.
So I just want to come back to you, then, Margarita. I mean, were there anything, if you were to interview this person again, would you have done it differently, or you were quite happy with how it went? Because
I was absolutely happy, and we decided, and the fingers crossed we will do that. We'll chat later about these personal stories of everyday people and the ways of working with them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was like a fantastic serendipity to find, to bump into that particular person.
So again, I would just very quickly link it with, obviously it's very important that you enjoy the conversation,
Absolutely.
that you are making the right connection, but then again, maybe have a think about other people who are listening.
Maybe other people.
Maybe like, what would other people like to know from this person, and almost, you know, because I think somebody made a really interesting point, like early on. I think they said, I can't remember who said it. Maybe you can help me, but. They said, oh, we started as an interview, then it was just a conversation, which I think is just an interesting thing that just kind of happens. If the flow is really good, then you can just slip into this kind of natural conversation, which is great and sometimes brilliant to listen to, but it's just like, as long as you know what's kind of happening, maybe. Well, I don't know, what do you think? What do you think? Is it different? Is there a difference between an interview and a conversation? No question.
I guess yes. Because
I put the question in.
I was there with a purpose, and this person just agreed to chat with me, and the conversation was quite long. Actually, we've been speaking for more than an hour and a half, and I just probably we must go somewhere. Yeah. I mean, we couldn't stop.
So I can see that's quite hard to kind of get 3 minutes only.
I do think there's an asymmetry, because you're trying to find out about this person. You're not necessarily wanting, I mean, sometimes you get asked your opinions, and a few people did, but it's not about your opinions or your views. You're trying to understand the other person's view. So I think it's a little bit different. Anyway, I feel like it's time for final thoughts. And anyone want to say anything before we go, before we turn off the pipe?
The tube.
We close the tube down. No. Okay, so back onto the music, and we will see you next time. You hopefully all know what you're doing. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, people. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Happy weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. It'll be good to get the Zoom chat, because there's a lot of things.
Yeah. Could you please?